Hi, I'm the Rap Critic, and this episode was requested by Evan Fuchinari. And if you'd like to request a song for me to review, go to my Patreon for more information. So let's talk about Lauryn. It's not fair! She was so incredible, such a rising star in the industry. Why'd you have to leave us with only 1.5 albums? I'm cool. So, I've always been a fan of Lauryn Hill's music, from her basically being the star player on the Fugees albums, to her sporadic songs after her time in the spotlight that were introspective and experimental. But have only heard whispers of controversy about her actual life. And don't look up stuff about her life, it'll just make you sad. Well, sadder at the fact that we only got to have one. Instead, let's just focus on the music by looking at her biggest hit, That Thing.
Don't forget about the ding. The Sirat the Mustaqim, yo.
Wait, what does that mean? The Sirat al-Mustaqim is an Arabic term for the Islamic concept of the straight path, or the way of life which makes God happy. Oh, okay, I totally get that for the song, which is all about calling out people for living their lives the wrong way.
Feel real good, wave your hands in the air, and lick 2 shots in the atmosphere.
If you're gonna make a song about telling people to avoid making stupid decisions, maybe don't also tell people to randomly fire bullets into the sky like a drunken cartoon cowboy. You know those bullets come back down, right? Even Rap Genius points that out. Okay, but beside all that, I'm sure you already know the meaning of each individual verse. One verse is talking to young women about their faults.
It's been 3 weeks since you were looking for your friend, the one you let hit it and never called you again. Remember when he told you he was about to Benjamins? You act like you ain't him, they give him a little trim.
And the second verse addresses young men and their typical moral failings.
The second verse is dedicated to the men, more concerned with his rims and his Timbs and his women.
But what's always thrown me off is the placement of the chorus. Now, in the original version, that's not as easy to place the meaning I gleaned from the choruses, because it starts with an intro, goes into the verse about women, then goes into the first iteration of the chorus, which addresses the men, so the part that addresses the women doesn't get heard until about 2 minutes into the song. But in the music video version, it starts with addressing the women in the chorus first.
Girls, you know you better watch out. Some guys are only about that thing.
But if you think about it, doesn't that structure seem backwards? Shouldn't the verse that starts with addressing supposed scandalous women be initially addressed to the boys? As if to say, hey boys, look out for these materialistic girls. Why does the verse that condemns women's behavior not get led into the chorus by addressing the boys, but instead is led into the chorus about girls looking out for scandalous guys and vice versa? Well, in this humble reviewer's opinion, I think it goes like this. When she's addressing the girls, she's specifically telling them that these attitudes you have that lead to the bad decisions you make facilitate a path in life which attracts people who will take advantage of you for material gain. She's warning the girls about the type of guys they'll attract through their actions. Young girls, if you use your body as your main attribute for why people should like you, you're going to attract people who won't love you and are only about that thing. Young boys, if you use your money as your main attribute for why people should like you, you're going to attract women who only like you for that thing. And that's why I like the video version better. The framing views her audience as not a perfect person who needs to be on the lookout for flawed people, but as an also flawed person who needs to correct their actions so as to not attract another flawed person with which the only outcome is a poison relationship.
And plus when you give it up so easy, you ain't even fooling him. If you did it then you probably fuck again. Then baby girl, respect is just the minimum. Niggas fucked up and you still defending them.
I have no analysis of these lines. I just realized I've never heard the uncensored version before. Seriously, you have to specifically look up the uncensored version to find it. It's not even on Spotify.
Now, Lauryn is only human. Don't think I haven't been through the same predicament.
Now, this I think is the line that really resonates with people. I think some, if not all of us, at some point in our adolescence go through a phase where we fall into, or at least strive to fulfill, the stereotypical expectations of gender roles because we want to be accepted by the status quo. And as far as society has been set up so far, the simplest narrative, especially for young teenagers to understand, of how to get what you want is, if you're a girl, you show skin, and if you're a boy, you show cash. Here, she makes it clear that she's not a completely infallible being who has always had enlightenment, the point to which you will never reach. She says that she used to be just like you at one point, and she says that she's gotten out of it. In fact, I found a quote from her that said, I knew girls like Lil' Kim growing up. I might have even been one at a certain age. And there's a huge lack of self-esteem behind that thinking. I mean, when I was 14, I thought that if a guy didn't whistle at me, that meant I wasn't pretty. But either you mature past that or you get caught in the concept of, oh, I have to show some ass because that's the only way I can feel beautiful. Sex is cool, but it's only part of the story.
Let it sit inside your head like a a million women in Philly pen. It's silly when girls sell their souls because it's sin.
Now, I had no idea that there was a women's march in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania the year before this song came out. I actually had to look that up. But I think it's also pretty emboldening that she says this as well, because she's relating that those hundreds of thousands of fellow women that marched in that protest also had to take a similar journey to the one Lauryn Hill had to go through, and the one that the girl she's talking to is currently going through. So here she's providing an even bigger framework of women who also weren't perfectly enlightened from birth, but as well had to go through the mental developing journey of womanhood to understand the limits that society has put on them.
Look at where you be in. Hair weaves like Europeans. Fake nails done by Koreans. Come again.
Now, this part's pretty specific to black women. As in American culture, there's an ingrained idea that straight and oftentimes blonde hair is more aesthetically pleasing and proper than natural black hair. So many black women since at least the 50s, as far as I know, have hidden their real hair under tracks, weaves, and wigs. And I don't think it'd be much of a problem on its own. I mean, just the idea of wearing a wig in and of itself isn't really that bad. But it's a significant group of black women that feel they need to do that worries me. And I believe it also worries Lauryn Hill here as well. That aesthetic rejection of natural hair in the wake of centuries upon centuries of whiteness as the standard of beauty has no doubt manifested itself into black American standards, and convinced black women and men that conforming to certain superficial standards of beauty makes a black woman more attractive, or at the very least, acceptable by the typical interpretation of cultural norms. And
Ain't you dating some white bitch?
Thank you, Jess. And then we get to her verse about guys, and she has quite the lyric in this one.
Him and this man come in the club like hooligans. Don't care who they your fan, Papa Yang. Like you got yang. Stop.
I've never appreciated how good this lyric was until I had to analyze it just recently. And I absolutely love how she uses slang to allude to bigger points. See, Papa Yang is slang for basically mindless chatter, and the sarcastic phrase that follows, the "oh yeah, you're talking all this noise like you've really got money," substitutes the typical word we'd hear for cash with the word yen, which is Japanese currency. But with that substitution word, there's another meaning in her statement. As we know, the yin and yang symbol connotes the idea of opposite but balanced forces, in this instance representing having the balance of one's life in check. But she's saying you don't really have all that money that you claim, and saying that you also don't really have stability in your life, which bragging about having money is supposed to make people think that you have control. Not only over finances, but I think we sometimes implicitly assume that if someone has money, that they're at peace, that they have mental stability as well as financial stability. But that's not a given, especially if you're living the way Lauryn Hill is describing. Now, of course, Lauryn Hill is a lot harsher to guys than she is to girls about this stuff.
Need to take care of their 3 and 4 kids. Been the face in court case when the child support's late. Money taking, heartbreaking, now you wonder why women hate men. The punk domestic violence men, the quick to asking them stop acting like boys and be men.
But I mean, let's be real. Men in hip-hop up to this point have had at least 2 solid decades of calling women out for being scandalous hoes, bitches, skeezers, and mentirosas. I think the guys can take the harder critiques. But at the same time, she doesn't end it by dismissing them as worthless. She doesn't end her verse like, "Get out of here, asshole, no one wants you anymore, ha ha!" She actually wants for those guys to also find balance in their lives. I mean, someone who absolutely doesn't care about you wouldn't end the verse by telling you that you can only succeed in life by looking inward and correcting your personal failings.
How you gon' win when you ain't right within? How you gon' win when you ain't right within? Come again.
And I love how she ends each verse with the phrase, "come again." Because that phrase is lifted straight out of the parenting handbook. You know when you use a curse word or something like that around your parents as a kid, and they turn to you and say, "What'd you say?" Or as she puts here, "come again?" It's not that they actually didn't hear you, it's that you just said something disrespectful, and they're pretending not to hear it in order to give you, the kid, a chance to recognize you did something wrong and correct yourself. And it's employed here playfully so as to give the flawed listener a second chance to change their ways. At least in my interpretation. And overall, I give this my coveted 6 out of 5 rating. It's a perfect example of why Lauryn Hill is one of the, well, why she was one of the best rappers. No! I'm cool. Lauryn Hill was a national treasure. She was able to not only maintain her artistic integrity over the course of her career, but through how well she sold, her albums showed that people of all colors and creeds were completely receptive to hearing the unfiltered mind of a relentless black woman that wasn't just deeply embedded in sexuality. Her music wasn't just good, it was popular and well rewarded by the music industry. Her success as an artist was proof that as a black woman in music, it may not be easy, but god damn it, it's possible. And for that, she deserves respect, especially for how she was able to filter that intellect and heart into one of her biggest hit songs. Well, I'm the Rap Critic. You don't have to like my opinion, but... Oh god, I can't keep it up! Lauryn Hill, come back! We need you! Lauryn Hill was a national treasure. I mean, is. She's not dead. It's just, she's not rapping anymore. Oh my god, she's gonna die as soon as I do this video, isn't she?